Welcome every single person to another brand new update. So as many of you guys know from the last update, we talked a little bit about a brand new bill that's currently now floating around Congress in order to try to boost Social Security by $200 every single month, or otherwise $2,400 every single year annually. But the big idea is that even beyond that is that there's actually a lot of plans that's going on inside of Congress right now. Some of it is really, really great news. Some of it is not so great news. So for example, there's talks that there are many, again, just speaking objectively, leaving politics aside, many Republicans that are now currently trying to actually cut Social Security programs even greater. But at the same time, there are also a lot of Democrats that are trying to actually better or improve Social Security even further. So in today's video, what I really want to do, maybe as a continuation to the last episode, which I'm going to put at the very end screen, I believe it's literally just called Just Announced the New Stimulus Bill. Highly recommend checking that out. Huge thanks if you guys have already done that. But in today's video, what I really want to talk about is a lot of the other plans that are going on inside of Congress right now revolving around stimulus and Social Security. So you can really consider this as a part 2, but you can watch it in either order. So that being said, let's just get started right on the spot. But as always, you guys know the same exact drill. Remember to smash the like button to share some support if you guys can, or you guys can decide, but it's greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you guys like similar videos like this. Of course, again, you guys can always decide. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, maybe personal thoughts about what you think about this situation or what you think about this bill. Really, honestly, just anything. It really is always great to hear from you guys, even simple hellos. So with that being said, let's get this video rolling and started. So we're going to run through all of the different plans that Congress currently has one at a time. But the first plan that Congress is really going to be working on in the world of stimulus and Social Security right now is really about everything related to the budget cuts. The big idea is that our country right now in the US is in a lot of debt. There's a lot of debt that we have to really be able to pay back. And so the big idea is that, especially on the Republican side of the party, what they're really trying to work on is figuring out where they can actually make those budget cuts. The big idea is that they know they want to make budget cuts, but the real question becomes where? Where do they want to physically do it? And that's the debate that's currently going on inside of Congress. If you ask most Republicans, they're really trying to consider trying to make those cuts when it comes to removing programs such as like Social Security, or certainly downsizing a lot of these programs. So things such as like stimulus, Social Security, child tax credit, all of these government programs, that's where they sadly want to be able to take money. Now, on the brighter news is that there are also a lot of politicians that are also fighting in order to try to not only keep these programs, but actually to develop these programs even further, especially inside of the Democratic Party. Again, just leaving politics aside, it's just because it's physically what's happening right now. And I mean, you could ask, people from different parties, and that's really the general consensus. The big idea is that to a lot of Democrats right now, they do know there is currently a debt ceiling situation. There's a lot of like the debt crisis and everything related to that, but they would rather focus their time on trying to help the people before they deal with economic situations, and they want to potentially just work on that a little bit later. Feel free to leave your particular comment about which one you think is better or right, because it's not really a super black-white answer. It's super gray, and I think that's one of the biggest things, because there's arguments that can go really both ways at this time period. Now, there are also a lot of people that have a little bit of like a midway perspective of approaching this, where they want to continue the Social Security programs, but what they are thinking about doing is just increasing it to make it so that it's physically harder to get on Social Security. So in other words, they're going to be saving money by giving it so that only the people that truly particularly need a lot of these government programs, but again, not just Social Security, we're just using this because I know a lot of people here are on Social Security. They're trying to potentially create something where they're going to make it so that it's physically harder to get onto these programs, and by having less people on these programs, they're going to potentially now try to save money there so that they can use it for a lot of other things, such as like paying off debt, which is probably the biggest goal that they have right now. What are some examples of things that they can do? They can raise the requirements so that it's more difficult to be on Social Security. They can raise the physical age that you have to be on Social Security. So they're thinking about definitely raising the age. That's definitely something that's on the table right now. And there's just a lot of other kinds of things that they're really trying to creatively come up with. Requirements, restrictions, who can be on, the physical dollar amount of Social Security, that's another example, the COLA boost, everything like that. They're thinking about trying to find that compromise, but that's one of the biggest arguments or one of the more balanced sides to really approach the situation right now. There are also a lot of talks that they might start to apply some kind of work requirement to make it so that people that are on Social Security will have to work a particular number of hours or make a particular amount of money every week in order to stay on it. It's a really weird area, in just personal insight. Again, I try not to be as biased, but just putting a little bit of a personal insight is that it's a little bit of a really weird area, because one of the reasons we have these programs is because people need money. So at the same time, they're trying to force people to work who will be getting money in order to get more money. So it's, a little bit imbalanced, but that's just the stuff that's going on right now. I figured it's important to share. Now, there is also, interestingly, another plan that they're currently working on right now, which is really related to the solvency, actually, of Social Security. As some of you guys know, because they are in a lot of debt right now and they're running very, very low on money, there are a lot of talks that they don't know how long or how many more years Social Security can actually physically run for. So one of the biggest things about, and this was actually something that was included in that bill. So again, highly recommend checking out that video where I talk about the new bill. It's going to be at the end screen on the bottom, called Just Announced New Stimulus Bill. But the big idea is that Bernie Sanders is trying to come up with some kind of way right now in order to try to raise money to actually physically keep Social Security running for another 75 years. This is something that we didn't really talk as much about in the last update, but the big idea is that they want to do something related to changing the tax code in order to make it so that now people who make over $250,000 every single year will now have to pay even more or a greater share in terms of taxes. They want to change the tax code in order to increase it for people that are rich, in order to try to raise up more money so that they can use this to not only fund Social Security now, but to actually make it so that our government can become richer, to use it now for other kinds of social programs as well. And also, of course, is the premise that we've been talking about, which is to finally pay back a lot of the debt that they're currently in order to kind of help handle all that situation that's happening right now. There is a lot of controversy and dispute about this plan, however, because the big idea is that, if you guys remember, is that President Joe Biden, back when he was still campaigning, and we're going to talk a little about how this might come back later on, but back when Joe Biden was campaigning, if you guys remember, he did make a promise that he was not going to raise taxes for anyone that was making under $400,000. So if he starts to implement this rule for $250,000, at this point, it means that he's still going to help to increase taxes, but it does mean is that he's going to be breaking one of the promises that he wanted to deliver when he originally ran for presidency way back about 3 years ago. It's kind of so wild that it's already been about 3 years since the last election year, but it really shows how fast time just really flies. Now, one important date that's really important to take note of is that on March 9th, if you are watching this around release date, or it's possible it might have already passed, which means that hopefully there's going to be a follow-up video to that. Definitely consider subscribing if you guys haven't done so. But on March 9th, President Joe Biden has plans that he's going to be releasing his budget report, which is basically, it's a report where he's going to announce what are the actual physical budget cuts he's officially decided on that he's going to try to implement going forward from here. The big idea is that we've been having a lot of speculation about where he's going to make these budget cuts, because it has to come from somewhere. Many people predict that it's going to come through Social Security. Other people predict it's going to come through other government programs. Other people predict it's going to come from other areas. But on March 9th, we're going to be able to get more answers about this, because right now at this time, our country is in about $2 trillion worth of debt. And additionally, even more so, is that whatever he ends up deciding is going to potentially impact over 100 million people, because over 100 million people right now are currently on some kind of government support program. So examples of this is like Social Security, unemployment, SNAP benefits, EBT, everything in that particular world. Now, probably the last and final plan we're really going to share in today's video is that he's also going to be working on, not now, but coming up relatively soon. By relative, we mean about in a couple of months, is that he's also going to now be working on trying to start the next presidential election campaign. As some of you guys may or may not know, is because it's crazy. Most people know this, but I don't think most people are starting to recognize this, how soon it is. But we're about 1 year away from the next election year. And so as we start to approach 2024, even though there's still a good amount of time, but as we start to approach that era, it also means that during that time period, that's when they're going to have to now change their focus to everything related to the presidential elections. And this is actually going to be very, very massively important, because depending on who stays in power in Congress, who stays in power in the president's office in the White House, who stays in power there, the big idea is that this is also going to influence a lot about what they actually can physically do. If the Democrats are able to stay in power, then it means that they're going to have a lot more leeway to do these programs. Again, just objectively speaking, again, we try to, be as objective as we can. But obviously, if the power starts to flip to Republican, it's going to be a lot more difficult to implement a lot of these programs. On another note, maybe it's going to lead to a healthy economy, because again, it's really a pro and con kind of situation right now, depending on which one you value more. Do you value more government programs, or do you value more about saving the economy and everything related to things like stocks, the debt ceiling, the debt crisis, and everything in that particular world? But beyond that is that that's pretty much what I really wanted to share in today's video. So if you guys found that relatively insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button. If you guys haven't done so, consider subscribing, hitting the bell. Feel free to leave a comment about honestly just really anything. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.